What's up, wall fans, common sensors, and of course, podcast consumers? Welcome to another video feed of Not Common Sense Sundays. However, it is our usual Go Tell It to the Wall format, and this is episode 133. It is 4th of July. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I got a lot of stuff to get into today. So, all that being said, let's get straight into episode 133 of Go Tell It to the Wall.
1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers, welcome to another exciting edition of Go Tell It to the Wall. That's right, it is not Sunday, it is Tuesday, but it is 4th of July, and we kind of sometimes get in the habit of doing an episode on the morning of 4th of July. In fact, we did a full live episode a few years ago, Star Spangled episode, so we're keeping up with that tradition despite the fact that we don't really have a lot to celebrate today. Of course, we're going to unpack some of that, but before we do that, we always kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us during episodes, after episodes, for episodes, whenever you so please, and you can do that on multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/go-tell-it-to-the-wall. That's right, facebook.com/go-tell-it-to-the-wall. Also, our official YouTube channel. Head over to youtube.com/go-tell-it-to-the-wall or at go-tell-it-to-the-wall will take you to our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and check out all of our great videos on there. Oh, man, and our thing, why is this doing this? We're having GoPro issues again, and now it's doing video. Everyone bear with me here. A little extra beeping. We'll see. That happened last week, too. I think this GoPro's finally given up on me. Anyway, like I said, YouTube. And then, of course, my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, at SoCalSean. And then, in addition to those things, as most of you know, you can bookmark and check often our official website, which is SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Going to have links to all those social platforms I just mentioned, as well as some exclusive content that doesn't get posted anywhere else, as well as links to our Patreon campaign and our merch website. So if you want to support us financially, that's two ways that you can do that, is through either Patreon or the merch website, both of which, like I said, link directly from SeanO'RourkeLive.com. All right, like I said, it's 4th of July. We've gotten into this habit, and I will warn everyone, we're going to unpack a lot of stuff going on for the 4th of July, because if you live in this country, or even if you don't live in this country, you probably know a lot of not great stuff has been happening in the United States, courtesy of what we call the Supreme Court, but probably should go ahead and change that name because it's not accurate to them protecting the rights of the citizens in the United States of America. So buckle up. It's not all going to be that, but we probably will have a few F-bombs here and there. All right. Let's get into some digital trends. That's right, digital trends. Stuff trending around the digital platforms, social platforms, stuff I just find interesting because it's my show and I get to yell at a wall. All right, first up, hashtag Twitter down. Now, this one I know trends at times when there's technical issues. Like you'll see Instagram down, Facebook down and stuff. This one was really trending this week. You already know most of this if you're a Twitter user, but if you're not, Elon Musk, as we've been talking about for months, just continues to drive Twitter into the ground. And this past week, he decided that there were going to be limits on the amount of tweets that you can view, and literally tweeted this out, and everyone kind of lost their mind and said, what is this rate limit stuff, blah, 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 blah. I never got hit with one, which is funny because I scroll through often looking for content. But the interesting thing about this is it was positioned as a way for him to limit tweets, but we're finding out a little more and more that it's likely due to technical issues. So it's not so much that something Elon Musk implemented, it is more something that he's having technical difficulties with regarding the Twitter. It's funny, everyone says website, and I guess it is technically a website, but to me it's just an app, because it's like I've never really used it on a web browser, but nonetheless I guess it is a website, and they're having, looks like, technical issues with that side of things. We've been hearing it for a long time, but this might be getting even closer to the final death knell of Twitter and it just completely imploding. I mean, it's already a hellscape as it is. I use it to get some information, but I see how the madness is happening and everything is being overtaken by bots and accounts that are pushing hate and misinformation, all that kind of stuff. So if you're a regular Twitter user, I'm sorry to say that your website, your app, might soon be gone. Which brings us to our next thing that's trending on the social platforms, and this was trending all over Twitter, actually, when this rate limit stuff hit and everything, and that would be Blue Sky. Twitter users are sharing their Blue Sky accounts on Twitter to then pull their followers over to Blue Sky, given the inevitable soon-to-be end of Twitter. And it seems to be gathering quite a bit of steam. I've seen a couple of other web apps and websites post up or start to get posted by Twitter users, but it seems like Blue Sky right now would be kind of the front runner to replace Twitter once it does inevitably die a cruel and unusual death, which seems a little extreme. Why am I saying death? The end of Twitter. I'm not as sensitive to it. People are freaking out and they're saying, I don't know how I'm going to deal without Twitter. And it's like, did this happen when MySpace went away? Because I don't recall that. Anyway, let's move along to another ridiculous TikTok trend that has been happening over the past couple weeks. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably seen this whole McDonald's thing. They're doing a Grimace birthday meal or something because apparently we're celebrating a purple blob's birthday, which is fine. I get it. It's marketing. They do all kinds of things like this. And have at it. They're selling these meals. They're selling this purple shake. Took me a while to figure out that the purple shake is actually vanilla berry, because I was even having a conversation with my wife, and I was like, what flavor do you think it is? And she goes, oh, it's purple flavor. I was like, well, it kind of makes sense, artificial flavoring in there. But the reason this is trending on TikTok is TikTok users, especially teens specifically, I never thought I'd be turn into that guy. Kids these days. And it's not all of them, but it's some of them on Twitter. And what they're doing is they're drinking this purple Grimace milkshake and then pretending to die. Like literally pretending to just keel over, pass out, and pass away. This is yet another example of ridiculous trends that happen on TikTok. Half the time they don't even make sense. This one makes no sense to me. And I even did a little bit of research. I actually delved into this one a little bit, trying to figure out why kids are doing this. There's no logical reason. They are simply following a trend and pretending to pass away on a social platform. So many things wrong with this, but the main thing is, please, for the love of God, kids, don't pretend to pass away on social platforms. It's not a funny thing. You have a lot of people out there that deal with suicidal tendency. I just said a band, but you get what I'm saying here. Have an issue with suicide and maybe contemplating these things, and then they opened up TikTok and they see kids pretending to pass away by drinking a purple shake. Makes absolutely no sense to me. Enough of it. All right, another hashtag that's trending on the social platforms right now is hashtag 4th of July. That's right. People are sharing posts with hashtag 4th of July. Now, much like last year, and probably the year before, and probably the year before, and probably the year before, I got on here and I said, what the hell are we celebrating? And this year it just got even worse. Last year we were taking away women's rights, and this year we're taking away all kinds of rights that are just common sense stuff that should still exist in this country. So we're going to unpack more of that when we get to common sense. But in the meantime, I will say nothing wrong with having a barbecue today, but I would encourage anyone out there listening to contemplate, should we really be celebrating a country? In fact, I saw a good meme the other day, and it was like the United States, because this Supreme Court stuff came down on Friday, and it said, the United States was such a bitch on Friday, how does she expect us to celebrate her birthday on Tuesday? Nope. And it's like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Not going to celebrate the country necessarily. I will eat some food and spend some time with some friends. And of course, when you have a kid, you're like, let's go to a barbecue, hang out with the kids. We'll entertain yourselves, And so as much as I'm not celebrating, I will be enjoying some time with friends and family. Which brings me to my next one. Hashtag what I bring to the barbecue. That's right, everybody's barbecuing today. Probably been barbecuing all weekend. I saw barbecues all over the neighborhood all weekend, and pretty much starting Friday, and I think a lot of people had 4-day weekends. My wife had a 4-day weekend. I had a 4-day weekend. Well, kind of. Here I am working on the actual holiday, but you get what I mean. And so, as for, everybody's out barbecuing, and I'm going to be going to 2 barbecues today, two friends that are having barbecues. So I saw this, and I was like, what do I usually bring to a barbecue? Now, I am quite boring, and I pretty much just pick up a case of beer and roll up to a barbecue with a case of beer. If it's a sober barbecue, I'm probably rolling up with a case of soda just because it's easy. Fortunately for me, my wife is actually creative in the kitchen and tends to put together meals for potluck barbecues and all kinds of that stuff. And in fact has made a Hawaiian-style macaroni salad. For those of you that have had Hawaiian barbecue, you know what I'm talking about. It's macaroni salad, but it's a certain type recipe that they use with goes alongside Hawaiian barbecue. So we'll be bringing that to the barbecues today. So thankfully, She's less boring than I am. I used to always take the easy route and just pick up a case of beer. All right. One more that I want to get into here on digital trends. Hashtag best excuse to take a day off. That's right. Best excuse to take a day off. I will say people should have fun with this one and post funny things. But something that's very important to me, and it's going to roll us into our next topics here, is you don't need an excuse to take a day off. You're allowed to take a day off. Mental health days are a real thing. If you need to take a day off for your mental health, you should absolutely do that. And if your superiors at your work, your company, wherever it is, your management does not agree with that, you need to push back on it a little. Now, I'm not encouraging people to quit their jobs. However, I have had some not great bosses in the past. I'm not going to sit here and condemn and demean any bosses I had, but I never had a boss that was completely against taking a day off, taking a mental health day. These things are important. So yes, you can find funny reasons for hashtag best excuse to take a day off, but in my book, you don't need an excuse. You're allowed to take care of yourselves. It's okay to not be okay and take some time away from the grind, whatever it is you do professionally in life. I've done that I love doing this podcast, and I have taken a break from the podcast at times because I was in a bad place and didn't want to come into the studio and yell at a wall. So remember, Wall fans, all of you, this is something you're allowed to do. In fact, you're allowed to take a sick day, and I know it hits a point where if you're taking like a week off or whatever, you do have to have a doctor, but if you're just taking a sick day, your management cannot ask you what is wrong. You're allowed to share it with them, but all you have to do is, I'm taking a sick day, and that's it. I'm taking a vacation day, vacation day allotments, that's it. And that's going to bring us into mental health. I want to talk about a couple of real assholes when it comes to this week's mental health topics. First of all, Andrew Tate, this Cobra Tate asshole that just seems to keep popping up. And it's ridiculous because I've hit a point where I have had to, and I'm not a big unfriender on Facebook unless someone's being extremely offensive or racist, those things. But I've hit a point where I've seen people that, and these aren't people I know well. These are people that follow me on Facebook, and I tend to accept friend requests at times. And I see Andrew Tate videos getting shared on Facebook. And it's like, after everything you've seen, the guy is literally in trouble for sex trafficking and kidnapping. After all the things you've seen, you still want to take advice from this guy. Well, one of the latest things he's done, and I'm sure he's done this multiple times over the past few years, I don't follow him, so it's when it comes up in the news, is he came out and said depression is a choice. Depression is a choice. He's essentially saying mental illness is a choice. Right there should be enough for anyone that has common sense to say, you know what, we're not going to take advice from this guy. Because let me tell you, from experience, not only my own personal experience, but knowing people that have dealt with mental illness, depression is 100% not a choice. And I'm so sick of people making these statements because they diminish and they add to the stigma around mental health and mental illness. And it has to stop. Absolutely has to stop. There's no excuse for this kind of behavior. And then what happens is his followers believe it. So we continue to let these assholes go around, make videos spouting off ignorant stuff, and then their fans eat it up. All these people that suffer from ridiculous toxic masculinity follow this guy that just pushes nothing but toxic masculinity. All while he's kidnapping women. I mean, you cannot make this shit up. But people eat it up. And there's nothing you can do. Best advice I can give, don't take advice from toxic people. I always say, I like to give advice. I give it based on my own personal experiences. But if you don't want to take my advice, don't take my advice. But absolutely, do not look like someone like Andrew Tate and say, oh, he's really making some good points. Do not let people like this change the narrative. We have come so far over the past 20 years when it comes to ending the stigma around mental health and mental illness. We cannot let some asshole with a camera and a microphone who does nothing but smoke cigars. I've seen the few videos I've seen, he's always got a fat cigar in his mouth. It's like, okay, you're going to end up with mouth cancer here, sir. Nonetheless, do what you want to do, but stop spreading misinformation. And that's exactly what's happening here with Andrew Tate. And like I said, we got a couple of assholes this week. We also had good old Elon Musk over there who took some time out of his daily routine of destroying the Twitter platform to inform all of his followers and everyone on Twitter that SSRIs are bad, that they are bad for you, They turn people, for lack of a better word, crazy. I can't remember exactly what term he used, but he said it destroys people's mental abilities by taking SSRIs. Now, I always say I am not a doctor. I do not give medical advice. I simply give advice based on my experience and experience dealing with other people who have had issues. SSRIs are vital to many people around the world, and there's nothing wrong with them. Now, for those of you that don't know what SSRIs are, it is a certain category of mental illness medication. Now, one of the biggest ones that most people recognize is Zoloft. That is an SSRI. Is Zoloft. This isn't even a very strong medication by any means. And Zoloft has been an extremely important tool for many, many, many people that deal with mental illness, myself included. And it gets worse because not only did he say SSRIs are bad for you, despite the fact that they have helped probably millions of people. I don't know exact numbers, but I'm going to guess millions of people have benefited from certain SSRIs. Well, instead, he claims that instead of taking prescribed medication, you should microdose ketamine. Microdose ketamine. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just some idiot who yells at a wall on a weekly basis and talks about my own experiences and my own thoughts. But I can tell you, despite not being a doctor, it is not a good idea to start microdosing ketamine. And really, we're going to take medical advice from Elon Musk. Here we have an example of two just blatant assholes suffering from toxic masculinity giving medical advice. Knock it off. And you know what? They're allowed to do it. Freedom of speech. But like I always say, you don't need to listen to the asshole standing on a soapbox on the street corner. And the fact that both of these people have an incredibly large audience is what makes it dangerous. And I'm telling you, do not listen to either of these guys or really anyone else out there that's spewing toxic masculinity and misinformation, because it's completely inaccurate. Listen to doctors, not idiots. You shouldn't get your medical advice from Twitter. You just shouldn't. It's like when we were talking about Joe Rogan wanting RFK Jr. to debate one of those world-renowned doctors who helped with the COVID vaccine. Like, no, this is why you don't do it. There's no common sense among these people. And really what we're doing is setting everybody back. Now, I've done nothing in comparison to a lot of people in the work that they've done around mental illness and mental health, developing medications, studying, educating. And even I can say that this is absolutely wrong. And we shouldn't be setting things back. So please keep that in mind. Even if you're someone who doesn't suffer from mental health issues or a mental illness, you need to be vocal about this. Because we are diminishing and minimizing people who suffer when really they're no different than anyone else. It's okay to not be okay. And we can't have people like these guys telling us it's not okay to not be okay. Because I'm telling you right now, it is okay. It's okay to talk to someone. It's okay to take medication. It's a long journey. But it's okay to do those things. Listen to doctors, not assholes on Twitter. God. What blows my mind the most is that these guys continue to have a fan base. Like, common sense, people. Let's do better. All right, let's move along to some positive news. I'm laughing about this one. We talked about the Proud Boys fighting with, I don't know, whatever other group they're fighting with like a week ago and unmasking each other. You're feds. No, you're feds. And like, it's that Spider-Man meme, like, huh? Pointing at each other. Well, we got word this week that the Proud Boys have been fined $1 million. A court has ordered them to pay $1 million to a predominantly African-American church. And this happened a couple years ago. Apparently, they ripped down a Black Lives Matter banner and damaged the church in certain ways. I don't have specifics on the damage outside of they did pull down this big banner. But it was deemed a hate crime. And now the Proud Boys are being forced to pay $1 million to this predominantly African-American church, which they defaced and obviously went after with no real good reason. And this brings me to my other point on positive news, and that's positive news in itself. Let's hit the Proud Boys where where it counts, and that's in their wallet. I mean, I'd like to hit them in their faces, but I'm not out there trying to endorse violence. It's just sometimes you look at people and you're like, that guy probably deserves to get punched in the face. Nonetheless, this is an example of how everyone freaks out about Antifa. And it's like, is Antifa in the room right now? It's a movement. It's not a literal organization. Whereas the Proud Boys is an organization. They are able to find them as an organization. And so good on you to the courts for being logical and using common sense here and putting them in their place and holding them accountable for some of the horrible things that they have been participating in. All right, let's move along to some parenting. We're going to have a short episode today, I think, and I kind of had a feel. I feel like when we do these 4th of July episodes, outside of the Star-Spangled episode, we tend to be a little bit shorter. We're also hitting a heat wave here in Los Angeles, which I shouldn't complain because I have friends that live like out in the desert, and it was like 103 the other day, and here I'm like, it's so hot, and it's like 87. We just haven't adjusted to it yet. All right, let's talk some parenting here. So I would encourage any parents out there, and honestly, even if you're not a parent, because I was there with a friend and his kid, to find one of these either trampoline parks, or what we did was we went to this place called Funbox, and they have it here in Southern California. And essentially what it is kids love bounce houses. I loved bounce houses as a kid. I loved giant trampolines as a kid. And this is essentially a gigantic, probably not quite the size of a football field, but bigger than a basketball court, bounce house. And around it is slides and little obstacle things and all kinds of stuff, and you're literally just bouncing. So we took my kid out there over the weekend, and let me tell you, I remember being a kid and just bouncing in a bounce house for like hours on end. You know, adults get in this thing. And that's why I say I saw a couple of adults also having quite the time with their kids, and then honestly probably would have been having a good time without their kids. But I get about 10 minutes into this giant bounce house thing, and if you haven't been in a bounce house as an adult, you might not remember it from you can't really like stand still. You can't walk. You got to kind of bounce. I'm about 10 minutes in and went, holy shit, my back is sore. But of course, got to be in there with the kid, and it's well worth it because they had a blast. But it got me thinking, like, how was I able to do this as a kid for hours? And my kid's just bouncing everywhere. And like I said, I was exhausted, but well worth it. And I would encourage you, wherever you live, to see if there's one of these around, especially if your kids are into like bounce houses and trampolines. Well worth the cost. And it's just this massive bounce house. You're just bouncing everywhere. And of course, at times I was like, I'm just going to lean against this corner over here and rest for a few minutes. But the kids are just, of course, running around like crazy through the little obstacle courses and everything else. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. We actually had gone there the first time for a birthday, and then my friend who brought his kid was like looking for a trampoline park or something to go do over the weekend, and my wife had recommended, this Funbox place, and I don't know if it's a chain, but I know there are other places like this. And he's like, oh, that sounds good. And then selfishly, I was like, hey, if we go to that Funbox, we can go to that cool like brew house next door. It's called Chop or something. And my buddy's like, sold. Let's do that. So we had a little something for the kids and a little something for the parents. Got to go have some nice Villains Brewing, a couple tasty Villains Brewing beers along with lunch right next door to Funbox. All right. I know I've been mentioning art camp. My kid actually finished up her 2-week art camp. Cannot recommend this enough. If you're in the LA area, get on the wait list for Inner City Arts. They do such a fantastic job, and they put together this showcase for the last day of camp. So, of course, went to see all of the art that my kid had done, as well as the other kids in the camp, and they had, because it included music and dance and drama and everything else, they put on a performance. Got to see a bunch of their green screen stop motion stuff, and honestly, it was just so amazing to see how excited these kids were about all the stuff that they spent 2 weeks working on. And my kid is definitely a performer. She loves to perform. So when it came to the drama and music part, she was heavily involved. And of course, clearly getting into the performance aspect of it. If you have the opportunity to find Inner City Arts or even something similar, the cost involved is well worth it. When you think about all the stuff they got to do and the resources and the certain art studios and the music studios and everything else, it costs nothing. It just costs nothing. And my favorite thing is they had all the kids at the camp design their own Vans. So they got a pair of all white Vans, and they designed it out on paper and then actually colored and painted in the Vans. Although my kid brought them home to finish them up, and at one point she was coloring the soles of the shoes, and I said, whoa, we don't want to color the bottoms. No one's going to see it, and you're going to get some stainage all around here. I could just see like purple footprints on my doorstep, and it's like, was Grimace here? No. Getting back to the Grimace shake. But yeah, it's like, no, we don't need to color the bottoms of the shoes. I know sometimes Vans has a different color bottom sole, like not the blanking on it, not the visible part, but the underneath, the waffle part, for those of you familiar with Vans. But get on that art camp stuff, because it's well worth it. And you just I am also a big proponent of broad spectrum things for kids. It's good to do like the basketball and certain sports, but when you can include multiple things and your kid's able to try out multiple things in the same kind of structured environment, there's definitely a benefit to that at a younger age. Now, if you have a 13-year-old and they're really into a certain thing, you can really push it. But when you have a 6-year-old like I do, she's still kind of figuring out what she really likes. Certain things she does love performing. She loves dance. I feel like that's not going anywhere. She's learning basketball, but really loves it. But there's all the other stuff. Creative arts and other sports and certain activities. And there's so many aspects to like dancing. You have different forms of dance. You have drama and all this other stuff. And that's one of the best ways to do it, is to have an inclusive, broad spectrum camp such as Inner City Arts. And of course, it is 4th of July, which means fireworks. Oh, fireworks. They've been going all weekend. I was at a show last night, and apparently when I got home, I had missed the prime fireworks, and apparently it just went crazy for a little while. I know it's going to go crazy tonight, and it's going to be funny because they have fireworks at the Rose Bowl and fireworks at Dodger Stadium. Going to be able to get a little view of both of those. Unless it gets really cloudy, then Dodger Stadium's tougher to see. But you go up on the hill, and you can actually see those fireworks shows without having to drive to them. And the funny thing that got me thinking is my kid hated them when she was really young. Freaked her out. Couldn't get her to go to sleep on the nights where there was just crazy fireworks. Over the past couple years, that shifted. Now I can't get her to go to sleep when the fireworks are going off because she wants to be outside watching them. She will literally be in her room, hear fireworks start going off, and then want to run outside and see them. So it's funny, the differences there. And then to get tangented a little bit, the dog we used to have hated. He just went into he hated it. He'd freak out, start shaking fireworks. And my dog now doesn't like being real close to them, but it's much easier. And we lucked out in that because the neighborhood I live in, 4th of July, forget about it. It's when you see videos of Los Angeles and the fireworks shooting off, a lot of times that is my neighborhood. That's where I live because they get a little crazy here. And of course, rounding out the pool stuff that I finally got up, we've had pool time just about every day. Let me tell you, even if you just get a smaller one, if your kid has any interest whatsoever, get him a pool because, geez, every day since, worth every penny, and she's been in there just so much since setting up the pool. And it's a minimal cost to keep your kids not only entertained, but we're getting into the hotter months. Keep them cool without having to run an air conditioner all day. So highly, highly recommend the pool for those of you that have kids out there that enjoy the pool. My kid is a water baby for sure. She's not the strongest swimmer. We've still got to do more lessons. Unfortunately, COVID. I think this happened for a lot of kids of certain age. She was taking swim lessons, and then COVID hit, and then there was no swim lessons for like 2 years. And now that's finally back, you got to sort through and wait lists and all this other stuff. And so still working on that, but make sure you're picking. If it's such a minimal cost to keep your kids cool and entertained during the summer months. All right, common sense. Let's get into some common sense on this 4th of July in 2023. And this is where we're going to get a little possibly heated. I'm trying to keep as positive an attitude as I can because I always remind myself, and we always talk about this, that a lot of times the hateful people are the minority. In fact, I truly believe that the majority of people don't think that depression is a choice. I do, but it's the loud guys like Andrew Tate who push that narrative, and then his fans who then continue that narrative. The thing is, they're the loud ones, which is why the rest of us have to be as loud as possible saying, no, depression is not a choice. No, SSRIs are not bad for you. So, of course, let's get into a little bit of common sense and kind of what's going on right now. So Rick Scott of Florida, he's a politician from Florida. He came out recently and said, socialists and communists are not allowed in the state of Florida. Please do not come to the state of Florida. And, of course, my immediate reaction was, no prob, Rick, I don't like your fucking state anyway. I have no intention of going back to your state ever fucking again. But, of course, we have these politicians that are pushing this stuff to divide. And throwing around words like communists and everything else and socialists. Don't put those two together. Just because you have certain people that have socialist ideologies doesn't mean you can exclude them from your state. Trust me, I live in California, and everyone's like, oh, California, and that's Republicans, that's a hellscape in California, and then everyone thinks, oh, it's just a bunch of progressives and, and liberals out there. And it's like, no, we got our spots in California even, and Florida does too. Go to Orlando. Go to Miami. Those ideologies are not the primary thing there. So here we have Rick Scott really catering to only a portion of his constituents instead of actually taking care of his state. But like I said, most importantly, I have no intention of going to Florida there, Rick. So ban me all you want. I don't want to go to your shithole of a state anyway. And Roseanne, man, remember years? I even went to YouTube because I swear there's a video on YouTube where I talk specifically about whatever stupid fucking thing Roseanne was doing a few years ago. Probably when she got kicked off of her own damn show. Of course, they literally killed her off, changed the name of the show, killed her. Well, she's back in the news, of course. She was doing an interview on some stupid podcast, and I say stupid because I don't even know what it is, but the guy did not keep her from talking. And she claimed that the Holocaust never happened. Remember, there are people alive right now. My wife's grandmother was alive during the Holocaust. Her family is Polish. I think they know a little bit. She wasn't there in Poland, but have relatives that know a little bit about the Nazi movement and the Holocaust. So to claim it never happened is just the most brain-dead thing you can possibly think of. Until she gets to her next point, which is even worse. Because not only did she claim the Holocaust never happened, but she said, though it didn't happen, it should happen now. And I quote, because Jews are ruining everything around the world. Like, wait, what? What? And we let this woman still have a platform. It's amazing. Again, the hateful ones are the loudest ones. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not an expert in anything. The Holocaust did unfortunately happen. I mean, I have Polish relatives, now a much older generation of Polish relatives, who still don't like Germany because of it. Germany is not a Nazi country anymore. In fact, you can't even fly Nazi flags in Germany, but that's how real it is. We're talking people still alive. This isn't like, oh, it was hundreds of years ago and we found this from research. No, the research is this motherfucker that survived the Holocaust that was there. Like, okay, is this so hard to understand? And then to just call for the mass execution of an entire ethnicity of people makes no sense whatsoever. No sense. Speaking of idiots, comedic idiots, Rob Schneider. You remember Rob Schneider? And the craziest thing for me about this one is, he was a funny guy. Saturday Night Live and Adam Sandler movies. I mean, Adam Sandler probably helped put Rob Schneider, if he has kids, helped put his kids through college, whatever else. Years ago when the Mel Gibson thing happened, I'm not going to get into the details on that, but he drunkenly said offensive things about Jewish people. And you can look it up, and it was terrible. And Rob Schneider came out and said, I am never, ever, ever going to work with, oh my gosh. I just said his name, and I'm never going to work with him ever again. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I don't think you would have been working together anyway, but that's fine. Fast forward to today's Rob Schneider, who apparently is a big, big, big fan and supporter of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We have talked about RFK Jr. and his reputation and his misinformation and everything else. And not only that, but now people are uncovering comedic sketches where he's talking about people moving to that shouldn't move to Florida and New York, or shouldn't move to Florida from New York and California. It's like, buddy, there's not a huge wave of people doing that unless they're getting moved down there for work or something. So we have a guy who got super offended about comments made about Jewish people because I think he's Jewish. And now he's supporting people who fly Nazi flags. It's like you can't have it both ways, Rob. You just can't. And I'm not going to defend Mel Gibson by any means, for God's sake. What he did was horrible. But the hypocrisy of someone like Rob Schneider, I would encourage you to go check it out. He actually, which is funny too, he hosted in a fundraiser event, I believe it was, for RFK Jr., and it's like, really? That's the best you could do is Rob fucking Schneider? That's who you got to host your event, RFK? Like, you're married to fucking somebody who's on Curb Your Enthusiasm, for God's sake. And Rob Schneider is hosting this event. Okay, buddy. A lot of support from Hollywood there, huh? I'm not saying you need the Hollywood support, but for God's sake. How irrelevant is Rob Schneider at this point? Has he even been in anything outside of an Adam Sandler movie in the past 40 years? Probably not. Oh, yeah, I mean, there's the Gigolo movie. Oh, yeah, they made 2 of those. That was fantastic. Just give me a break. Come on, Schneider. Do better. All right. Let's talk about the Supreme Court for a minute here. As I alluded to, they passed down some decisions this past Friday in the U.S. A couple of them utterly ridiculous. Now, one of them is they did overturn affirmative action, which I'm not going to sit here and debate affirmative action with people. I don't know enough about it. Because here's the thing. I am a male, 40-year-old, white, middle-class citizen. I wasn't always middle-class growing up. We were, didn't have a lot of money growing up at times. But this doesn't affect me. However, I can sit back and see how this affects other people and how it's unfair. We have a Supreme Court who is supposed to protect the rights of everyone in this country, and they have absolutely turned into the religious right, and they are pushing a certain agenda. And that's what happens when you let an orange person appoint 3 people on a 9-person Supreme Court. And this is what we're dealing with now. And the other thing is, which kills me more, I mean, affirmative action is crazy because they took away affirmative action, and I don't know enough about it and the statistics and everything else to argue with it, but what they didn't take away is legacy admissions at colleges. So not only are they taking away from minorities who are trying to get into college, not cheating the system in any way, trying to get into college, they are rewarding white people who are legacies at Ivy League schools like Harvard and wherever else, who get in much easier just because their parents went there or something. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. The one that kills me is we have this whole website thing that you've probably heard about, and this has been debated for years, where should certain businesses be forced to serve other people? And it's been illegal to discriminate based on race, sexuality, age, and all that stuff when it comes to customer service. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of it because you always go into a restaurant or a store and say, we reserve the right to refuse service. And it's like, okay, yes, if someone comes in here and they're a maniac, like it doesn't matter what race they are, what gender they are, what sexuality, yes, I get that. But they've said it's okay to discriminate on these things now, simply because of an ultra-Christian woman who is a website designer in Colorado. We go to find out that she wasn't even actually asked to design a wedding website for a gay couple. She pretty much made that up. Invoked the name of a guy who isn't even gay, is married to a woman and has children, and was like, I never requested a website. And here's the other thing is, we know a gay person is probably not going to go to a bigoted asshole who doesn't like them to give them business either way. But what we've done now is the Supreme Court has created a situation where you're allowed to refuse service based on those things. So I will encourage all of you out there. And I'm going to tell you right now, anyone who happens to hate listen to this podcast, we're going to refuse service to you. If you are a Trump supporter, we're refusing. I would rather you not listen to the podcast. If you are a Nazi supporter, I'd rather you not listen to the podcast. If you're anti-LGBTQ, I would love you to not listen to the podcast. And I would encourage anyone out there, if you own a business, whatever it is, to also refuse service in these types of situations. And in fact, I'm not saying everyone should do this, but there was a meme going around that said, if you're going in to get a cake, because we had that years ago where a bakery refused to bake a cake, and I think that might have been a wedding cake, but for a gay couple. Let's say you're going in, you want to get a cake, and it's not even for a wedding or anything. Go into that bakery if you don't know them well and say, I would like to get a cake designed for my gay wedding, or I'm marrying my soon-to-be husband, or whatever it is. Make it seem that way. And if they say no, we cannot serve you, then you leave. If they say okay, no problem, then you can say cool. I just wanted to make sure you weren't an asshole. I'm actually looking for a birthday cake. Honestly, and I'm not saying everyone should do this, but it's not a terrible idea. And refuse the hell out of service to a lot of these people, which is absolutely amazing, because it's like, oh yeah, you can refuse service. And it's like, do you understand? Most of Hollywood and the entertainment industry, they're not conservatives. I mean, you got Scott Baio? Good luck with that. So they have really opened up a can of worms here. And I say we continue to push back. The Supreme Court is an absolute fucking joke in this country. It's not a Supreme Court anymore. It is a religious right. It is an arm of a bunch of people who are trying to control narrative and control people because they have money and the color of their skin. And the other one is, of course, they have pushed back on the student loan forgiveness stuff. This is, again, not something I want to debate. I have said it before. People say, well, I had to pay off my student loans. Here's the thing. I live in a household. My wife had student loans. I say had. I have student loans. My wife and I are both in support of student loan forgiveness to a certain extent. And the other thing is they say, well, it's getting passed on to the taxpayers. No, it's not. You're just wiping away a loan. Nobody has to pay the loan for them. It's getting wiped away. These are these federal loans. And then the people that say, well, if you buy a car, you have to pay off a car. Here's the thing. Car dealerships don't give financing to a 17-year-old high school kid and then charge exorbitant interest rates to the point where you can be paying off your loans for 10 years and you still owe more than you originally borrowed. These are the issues with it. It's predatory. I understand the people that say you should pay off your debts. I understand. I'm not trying to get my house paid off by somebody. But I understand that Americans are struggling, and I understand how predatory it is, and everyone needs to understand the difference between paying off a car and these predatory student loans, when we're all from a generation where we were told you need to go to college or you will not be successful. And the kicker on that is many of these politicians that are pushing against student loan forgiveness and help with student loan debt, all those other things, tend to be politicians who had exorbitant PPP loans. And what happened with all those PPP loans? They were forgiven. And we're talking about fucking millionaires who had six-figure PPP loans forgiven. They're the ones complaining about citizens of the United States who work their ass off, pay their bills, getting $10,000 taken off of their student loan debt. Make it make sense, Wall fans. Make it make sense. And until we have some changes on the Supreme Court, I have zero respect for the Supreme Court. Now, I have respect for certain justices on the Supreme Court, but unfortunately, we're at a point where they're outnumbered, and it doesn't matter, and they can just push a political agenda instead of sticking up for the rights of the citizens of the United States of America. And speaking of people pushing religious political agendas, the Moms for Liberty. We talked about them last week. They're at it again. And I would encourage everyone, I don't like to call for boycotts. However, Marriott, the hotels, have allowed the Moms for Liberty to hold events at their hotels, conventions, and other things, and speak hateful things, bigoted things, racist things, and push their agenda. Until this is fixed and apologized for, I will not be staying at a Marriott. I'm not going to necessarily encourage you to do so. I'm not in charge of boycotts or anything, but I would like everyone to be aware of that. I will say from a comedic standpoint, there is a new word that is being used for Moms for Liberty, and it is, new phrase, assholes with casseroles. I also like the canned Karenhood, so I would encourage you to use either one of those while speaking at all about Moms for Liberty, because this is not a good organization. It is a hateful organization. It is a racist organization. It is a bigoted organization parading around as protecting children. And this is one of those situations where you're like, oh, yes, I'm protecting these children. Well, what about these children who are not white? Well, no. We cannot teach their history. So you're not sticking up for children. You're sticking up for white children. That's what Moms for Liberty is doing. And even then, they're not doing it well. They're trying to raise a generation of hatred, a generation of assholes, a generation of ignorant people who then continue that political agenda. And there's no excuse for it whatsoever. All right, let's get into some entertainment news, and then we're going to wrap it up for this 4th of July. Michael Imperioli, for those of you not familiar with that name, and this is a good segue into the entertainment news. He was actually, oh my God, Christopher on Sopranos. He's a well-known actor. He's been in a lot of other movies and stuff, and in fact, blanking on the name of his show. He's in like season 2 of a very, I want to say it's like White Lotus or one of those very popular shows that I haven't been aware of, but I know is very popular and people really enjoy it. He actually came out after the Supreme Court decision and informed people that disagree or that agree with the Supreme Court, specifically bigots and racist people and anti-LGBTQ, that he would rather they do not consume his entertainment. Now, the crazy thing is, if you watch Sopranos, he wasn't necessarily the best dude on Sopranos, and people were like, well, wasn't he a racist homophobe on Sopranos? And it's like, yes, the character he played. Like, do you also think, what's his name from Silence of the Lambs? Do you think he's a cannibal? Like in real life? No, he's acting. So heads up, all those hateful people out there. You're not allowed to watch Sopranos anymore. Now, obviously, you can't cut it off of your TV. But this is just a great example of someone standing up for the rights of people who are blatantly being marginalized in this country. So good on you, Michael Imperioli. Gonna support as much as possible now. Maybe I will watch that show that he's on, whichever one it is. And I think he started on like the 2nd season or something. But again, good on you, Imperioli. All right, I want to talk about a video that just dropped today. And I think I mentioned it like a couple months ago. The Venomous Pinks, their new video for the song We Must Prevail, just dropped today. And as I mentioned before, if you watch the video, and we're going to share it probably on either Go Tell It to the Wall or my own personal Facebook account there. If you watch the video, you might see a familiar face. Now, I'm in a crowd. It's very hard to pick me out. But I will tell you, I purposefully wore a Punk Rock Saves Lives hat. So when you see that Punk Rock Saves Lives hat in the We Must Prevail video from the Venomous Pinks, you know that's me. And on another note, outside of just the fact that I had the privilege of being in the music video and helping them out with it, is it is a very powerful song, We Must Prevail. It is kind of I don't want to say an answer, but it is a statement against the Supreme Court and the decisions they made last year overturning Roe v. Wade and women's rights and everything else. And it's a very powerful music video. The Venomous Pinks always putting out fantastic music, and all three of them are just great individuals. So I love supporting them. I've had the privilege of shooting them in the past, not shooting them with guns. That's the dad joke that's always coming up. It's like, you're not shooting the band. Yes, I'm shooting with a camera. It's a word we use. I've used it since film school. Nonetheless, and everyone jokes about it. They're one of the best bands out there right now, and highly encourage you to check out that music video and check out all of their music, because they have multiple fantastic EPs as well as their most recent full-length album that came out a little while ago. And I think there must be a Venomous Pinks sticker on the wall. It's funny, I always look at my monitor. I'm like, where's that Venomous Pinks? Oh, look at the Sound Sisters. There's one up there somewhere. I can't see it right now. There's like a little Where's Waldo for those of you that watch the video feed. Where's the Venomous Pink? I know there's one up there. I have multiple stickers, and I know I put one on the wall. All right. Moving along. Last night, found myself out in Pomona at the Glass House. Love the Glass House out there. And it's not super close, but you don't sit in a lot of traffic getting there from Los Angeles as opposed to going down to Orange County where you're like, I got to drive through downtown. I got to drive through where Disneyland is. Like, Jesus Christ, 2 hours later, you're at your venue in Orange County. So love the Glass House out there. The Vandals, they played their 4th of July Eve show. It was a lot of fun. Vandals always put on a fantastic show. And I was mainly there to see the Vandals, who, on a side note, I think it's been a while since, like, I saw them back in September play with Interrupters. And I was like, oh, it's September. Oh, we're playing Oi to the World. Oh, okay, cool. And, you know, I tend to see them in, like, November. And it's like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. We're coming up on Christmas. Well, I don't remember from my younger years seeing them at different times. But apparently they play Oi to the World in July, which I'm not complaining. It's a great song. But it's like, isn't this a Christmas song? Nonetheless, as I get tangented, what I do want to talk about is this kid, Caleb Santos. This was the one of the most amazing things I've seen. Had no idea who it was, and my friend was like, "You don't know who he is?" I was like, "No," and she was like, "You just wait and see." And it's a 10-year-old with a ukulele. I believe he plays multiple instruments, but it's 10-year-old with a ukulele. He opened the entire show and then had a second set right before the Vandals, and he's up there doing punk covers on his ukulele and singing. And it's amazing, not only the talent this kid has, but the stage presence. He was controlling that crowd in a good way, keeping all of us engaged. It was absolutely fantastic. And one of the funniest things I did think about it was, and funny in a good way, is my friend turns to me and she's like, you hear how he's like doing radio edits, essentially, not using the curse words. Well, then he starts to get into, and I could tell, I know Pennywise really well. He starts to get into a certain song from Pennywise. For those of you not familiar with it, it's F-Bomb Authority. So I'm going, as he starts playing, I'm like, how's he going to handle this one? Because they literally say fuck authority like a bunch of times throughout the song. And he used screw authority. And I was like, hey, that works. And uber talented kid, did such a great job. And I'm really happy that I was out there to catch him. And I'm sure you can, apparently you can find videos on like Instagram and stuff. And I think the Vandals have shared a bunch of his stuff. So check out Caleb Santos as well as the Vandals, of course, who do always put on a fantastic show. They obviously didn't have Josh Freese last night. They had Brooks. I can't remember his full name, but Josh Freese, now that he's playing with Foo Fighters, is going to be a little busy and probably not doing as much Vandal stuff as he used to. All right. Quick heads up. My show calendar is starting to fill up yet again after that little break following the Punk Rock Bowling Gauntlet. I will be down in Garden Grove this coming Saturday at Gutterfest. I'm not a big Guttermouth fan, but I will be there primarily to see Chaser, of course. We talk about Chaser so much on this show, and I got a bunch of Chaser photos that'll be getting posted soon. Jughead's Revenge, featuring one of my good friends, Eric. And, of course, legendary, to me at least, Buck 09. And they're legendary to me because I grew up in San Diego, and god damn it, I love some Buck 09. So if you're going to be down there, hit me up, come say hi, give me a fist bump, and I've actually got new stickers made that I keep forgetting to show on the video feed. They're the Go Tell It to the Wall Muppet logo, but they are shiny. They're purple and shiny, like hologrammy, so they're pretty cool. I've only got a few of those. So if you specifically ask me for one of those on Saturday, I will give it to you, but I'm not giving them out as crazy as the other ones. I got stacks of the other ones, but I only have like a little stack of those shiny ones. But I will be out there, so if you're going to be there, make sure you say hi. What's up? I might be shooting, so it might be a little more difficult to find me, but I will be there either way nonetheless. All right. One more thing, and then we're going to wrap up episode 133, and that will be the culmination. That's right. We have spent 4 weeks doing this, the culmination of our Punk Rock Bowling 2023 recaps, and that would be day 4, which is a less exciting day, and I think it was because I was pretty exhausted. But I will say, it is the one day that I had a serious complaint about something happening at Punk Rock Bowling. So day 4, I'm exhausted. We're up super late. As I said, we were up super late the night before watching Barstool Preachers and hanging out with the boys after their set. So, of course, I'm half awake. And my sis Laura, I kind of half open my eyes, and she's like, hey, I'm going to the pool party. Come meet us there. And meeting a couple of friends at the pool party. And luckily, it was not far. I laid there for a few more minutes, literally rolled out of bed, threw on some clothes, and said, all right, time to go to this pool party. Went to the pool party, saw a couple good bands. Was not drinking at the pool party just because I was exhausted. I was like, I am done. I'm so tired. That didn't mean I wasn't going to drink the rest of the day, but I said, okay. And then fortunately, Monster Energy was out there, not giving out Monsters, because I don't drink energy drinks. I drink FRS if I'm going to have an energy drink. It's just vitamins and natural stuff. But for those of you, you may know this already if you've been to shows lately, but back in the heyday of Warped Tour, Monster actually made what they called tour water. And it was just canned water, much like Liquid Death. Well, now, I'm sure with the success of Liquid Death, and in fact, yesterday I was at the grocery store and I went, whoa, there's the Monster Tour water. They've actually got it at Vaughn's now. But fortunately, they were out there handing out cans of Monster Tour water. It's Warped Tour water. Pounded like 3 of those. Pounded like 2. I'm like, all right, let's hydrate. Took one for the road. We ended up finally going to eat at Nacho Daddy's. I did not have nachos. I ended up getting a breakfast burrito just because it sounded so damn good. Ate that. And then, of course, it was time to go get changed and head on out to the festival. With this being the last day, everyone's kind of tired and you know, just kind of like, all right, powering through the last day. I was definitely in that category. Headed over to the festival, saw a bunch of great bands, which culminated with Dropkick Murphys. I didn't get super close for Dropkick Murphys. I just kind of stood in the back. The one funny thing I will say is they had these, the parking blocks. And I was trying to warn people, but you could see people walking. You can't really see it. And nobody tripped and, like, hit their head or anything, but everyone was like, and it's funny because I saw a video, like, a couple days after I got back, and they were like, who else tripped over this thing? And it's like, in a funny way. Nobody was getting hurt. But I'm just like, oh, my God, this is not the place for this thing. Let's try not to. And I'm like, hey, as I'm standing toward the back. Dropkick put on a great show. We did leave a little bit early because we wanted to go catch the Drowns at their club show. So we left before Dropkick finished up. And this brings me to my one complaint about punk rock bowling, really the entire... There was little things. Like, yes, when the beer lines were an hour long, it's like, that sucks. But, whatever, we can do it. What did upset me is we head to the Drowns club show. And there's a long line out front. And we're standing there, and the line doesn't seem to be moving. And the club show has started. And, in fact, at one point, we could hear the Drowns playing from the line outside. And I'm going, what is going on here? And at some point, a few minutes later, this female comes walking down. She's like, they're not letting anyone in. They are at capacity. And I'm going, this is a ticketed event. This isn't like a wait in line and get in, first come, first serve. This is a ticketed event. I have a ticket in my hand. So this is when I finally got frustrated. I said, there's something wrong here. The Drowns were not the headliner of that show. I was there to see the Drowns. They were either the first or second band for that club show. And I'm hearing them from outside. Now, apparently they figured something out after a little while. Finally, the line starts moving. We get in and only catch 2 songs from the Drowns, which was extremely frustrating because I love the Drowns. Now, fortunately, we get to see them quite a bit because they come to Southern California. I know there's going to be probably a fall tour where we'll catch them a couple times, but it was very irritating. It's like, I'm ticketed. Why am I not getting in here? And I'm not usually that guy to complain, and I honestly didn't complain to the door. In fact, the security guards were like, we're sorry. And it's like, no, it's not your fault. But something happened, and we couldn't get in. Now, fortunately, after the Drowns finished playing, we got to hang out with Andy and Jake, who were at the merch table. I don't know where Rev was, but I had seen Rev and Simon the night before, so I wasn't like, where are they? And so we did get to have some FaceTime with them and hang out and wish them luck as they headed off to Europe. And by then, I was pretty much done. We headed over to... I don't even remember where we went after that. We went and got some food and then said, you know what? That's going to do it for the night, and that's going to do it for Punk Rock Bowling 2023. Next day, got on the road, headed home, got home in record time, and put a cap on. Well, not a cap on it, but then prepared myself for the rest of the week because we got back on Tuesday, had a show the next night, and then had 2 shows Friday, Saturday, and it was a little bit tiring, I guess you could say. All right, we're almost at our hour, and I was like skipping stuff. I mentioned the... Oh, that's what I'll mention real quick in entertainment news. Joey Chestnut won his 16th, and this is what I found interesting. A little tidbit for everyone. Won his 16th mustard belt by winning the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. It was delayed because of weather, and it was interesting because I'm scrolling through socials, and people are like, man, can we figure out how to eat hot dogs inside? And I was kind of like, yeah, why can't it just be done inside? Then I saw Clinton Yates, who I really enjoy following. He's an ESPN personality, writes columns, everything else. Actually pointed out a couple times, he said, have you ever been to the hot dog eating contest? Apparently it needs to be held outside because if it's inside, the smell is just unbearable. And I don't think we're talking like a bathroom dump smell, but like a hot dog smell. And pointed out that area smells like that for the rest of the day. So I went, okay, that makes sense. And I will say, I always see who wins. I don't watch the hot dog eating contest. I have zero interest. They're dunking hot dogs in water and stuff's flying everywhere, stuff's flying out of their mouths. It's disgusting. Now, I'm extra sensitive to that. I have OCD. I don't like those kind of things. But I've run into many people that are like, no, that's gross. I'm not watching a guy shove 80 hot dogs in his mouth and dipping them in water and stuff's flying and, ugh. Do you, competitive eating? Not a spectator sport that I'm interested in. Let's just say that. All right. We are nearing the end of episode 133 of Go Tell It to the Wall podcast. That's right. It is not Sunday. This is our Go Tell It to the Wall format, despite the fact that it is not very different. I believe we will be back on Sunday with a new episode. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on the socials, facebook.com/Go Tell It to the Wall, youtube.com/Go Tell It to the Wall, or at Go Tell It to the Wall on YouTube. Of course, my personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean. And make sure you bookmark our official website, which is SeanO'RourkeLive.com, where you're going to find links to those social platforms, exclusive content you don't find anywhere else, as well as links to our Patreon campaign and our merch website if you want to help us out financially. The more funds we bring in, the more stuff we can bring into the studio, more new concepts we can enact, and all that good stuff. So please, if you have the means to do so and you want to, those are two of the best ways to support us financially. All right, like I said, we should be back on Sunday. Same wall place, same wall time as usual. Not today because it is a Tuesday. It is a 4th of July. I will say be safe out there, wall fans. Fireworks are stupid. Go watch a professional fireworks show. Don't blow off your fucking hands. It's just dumb. Don't set fires. It's just dumb. Be smart. Be an adult. All right. On that note, until next time, this has been episode 133 of Go Tell It to the Wall podcast, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And until next time, wall fans, remember, no matter what you do, no matter who you're with, no matter where you go, and especially no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.